Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the tables. Jason was not ready. We were chatting before we dive in, and
that's okay.
I launched into it. So Here we go. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and spoil this for him. Guys, you're in your ears right now is a champion among men, a winner in a competitive format. Jason, how was your week, dude?
My week was great. I had a disc golf tournament this past weekend. For those who listen, is Falling and who know is Falling Creek Yellows, and I've always played terribly there, and I'm playing very well right now. It is what it is. I'm thankful for it. I'm playing 900 rated golf, which is great for me, and it's consistent all the way back to Robbie's Patreon event, which I won the experience division there too. So
this man's undefeated, guys.
I am playing very well, and it feels good to be playing well and not putting well. And I'm an okay putter, so it feels good it's all going well. Dakota and I went and played today, and on a shorter course, and the throws are definitely still there, so that feels good. How are you doing, man?
Hey, living the dream over here. It's I've got little man on the monitor, and he's snoozing away, so that's always nice. And yeah, it's been a fun little go of it. We've got just a lot going on, but I don't know. It feels like this nice. I'm used to in May. I'm normally coming up to you for a trip, and it just feels a little weird because of how the new contracts and stuff is like sorted out. This May personally feels infinite. Like there's just so much time because I have all 4 to 5 weeks down here. It's just, there's a lot of excitement. And so, it's been a good time.
It's funny you say that when your May feels infinite, which is good. And my May feels like insanely packed. So it's when I think about that because both of my kids Xander already graduated in December, but he's walking because the graduation ceremony is next weekend. And then Hannah's graduating, and then her senior thesis movie we're going to go watch next week. She's working on it tonight on campus, and my parents are coming into town. So we have a Thursday night graduation or Wednesday night movie showing, and so Hannah's a horror movie, so it's like at 10:30 at night next Wednesday night. Hers actually the third movie in that block that starts at 10:30, so it's gonna be like 11:30 before we even watch it. And then Thursday's her degree ceremony. Friday we're having a party, like Xander and Hannah and their friends are going to come over for like a graduation party. Saturday is Xander's walking on that. Sunday is Mother's Day. My birthday's the next week. And then I have 2 tournaments in May I'm playing. And then Xander and Elizabeth go to Japan for a week. And so there's just so it's
wow.
Like my May's like, wow, it's not even May till this Thursday. But I feel like, oh my gosh, I need to get it. You're right. I need to get it going because it's just going to blaze through there because we have so many. I'm sure I'm missing other things in May. There's no doubt I'm missing other things that are going on in May. So I'm glad yours is infinite and slow and peaceful because I'll just take on all that from my side. So.
Exactly. You'll be the stress bard. I'll be the chill one. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah. But hopefully in the middle of all of it, we can be playing some games. Jason, what games have you been playing lately?
I've actually, since we talked 2 weeks ago, I've only played in person one game, and I played it twice. Ton of games on BGA. I'm actually playing the same 4 games because the new arena opened up, so I'm trying to get up to elite level, and I can't quite get there. But the 4 games I'm playing on there are Castles of Burgundy, Space Base, Kingdom Builder, and Cartographers. But I have like a bunch of those going at once. I keep winning and losing. I'll get there eventually. But the in-person game we play is a game called The Witcher Path of Destiny, and I've played it twice. It was actually a game that there's another one I've talked about before called The Witcher, The Old World, which is a kind of a deck building game, worker placement or worker movement deck building kind of game. Similar to Clank in that you're moving your character around the board and doing stuff. Very similar to Clank in that way. Really great game. Long, but not terrible. Witcher Old World is. Witcher Path of Destiny is kind of like a hand management, slightly deck building game that when I backed it on Kickstarter, I actually meant to cancel my Kickstarter. Totally forgot about canceling it. And so I backed it just at the base deluxe level. It came in. I was going to sell it. And then Xander saw it at the house. And I was like, well, I'm going to sell it because he said, no, I really want some of the minis. I'll buy them from you. I'm like, Xander, you don't have to buy the minis from me because he's a Witcher fan. It's like, I'll just keep the game. lot of backstory to this, by the way. So, I was like, you know what? If we're going to keep the game and give it to Xander so you can have the minis, I want to play the game. And so the Witcher Path of Destiny, it's a 3-round game in which you're playing cards to essentially decide what you want to do within a story. So there's some level of theme to it, in that it's inspired by, there's 3 different storybooks in the game that are directly from the Witcher graphic novels. Like, it's stories from there, and it's almost a choose your own adventure. So you read the flavor text, which is like 2 things of flavor text to know what's going on. And then you can either choose to go, okay, I want to go fight, or do I want to kind of do some research? But you do that inspired by cards you're playing. So you all start with the same 5 cards, and then you're moving and selecting 2 cards on a board. It's worker placement that you're just putting this really cool mini out to a spot to get 2 cards. The minis have no function at all other than looking really cool. They don't move around a board. They just go to a spot, and these cards have symbols on them. And those symbols basically can be, you're kind of, in a way, you're kind of voting on, do I want to fight or do I want to negotiate? Do I want to research? And there's little symbols that dictate that. And at the end of each round, whichever one has the most of those will dictate, okay, go read chapter 12 or read chapter 30. And so the story takes a different way. So that's the overall theme of the game, and that you're telling through this story through 3 chapters, and the actions you take with the cards are dictating that story. Now, the cards themselves it's basically you're building a tableau, because you're on your turn, you draft 2 cards, everybody drafts their 2 cards, and then simultaneously you play 2 cards out. It doesn't have to be the 2 you drafted. It can be any other 2 cards. And then those cards have essentially symbols. And what I like to say, they're very computer wise. Some of them may be at the bottom, says, I'll use the term if thens. People know if thens. If you have this symbol, then you get this reward. If you turn in 3 of these, you get this. So the bottom of the cards will have the ability to maybe get more resources or more symbols, in which is voting on the end of the round stuff. You end up playing, you do that 3 times every round. 3 rounds, you're going to draft 2 cards. Everybody plays simultaneously. Okay, do that over and over. So the game is actually light to midweight, not heavy at all. Elizabeth and I played it at 2-player, and I think she won that game. And then we played it at 4-player. Ryder and Will played with it as well. And then I think Will ended up winning that. He just jumped out really to a big lead. But it was interesting because we thought Will was going to run away with it, but it ended up being a tighter game than we thought, because there were multiple ways to score. Not doing a great job explaining it, but the high level thing is, if you're not a Witcher fan, it's still an interesting game for the tableau building and the hand management of it is very interesting. For someone who has a ton of games, it's okay, because I'm not a Witcher guy. If you're a Witcher person, this game is great, because you can kind of feel the story of that. You may even know the story because it's based on those stories, and that you read through the flavor text for 3 chapters, and then you even have some closing things for it. So, and each of the chapters gives you different abilities, or each of the chapters has different things that you may have additional asymmetric abilities for us. Witcher fan, great. If you have a ton of games, it's okay. So for me, it's just fine. I'll happily play it, because it actually plays pretty quick, because it is simultaneous play. I mean, the drafting is fairly quick, and then it's simultaneous play. And then, there's not a lot. It's just fine. Like, for me, it's just fine. And I used the analogy when I already said it when we talked about it. If I had a third of the games I had, The Witcher could easily be a game I'd play a ton, because it's teaching you hand management and tableau building, and almost not quite an engine, but kind of engine-ish, because you may two of the cards you play may have a symbol for these cards you played later, that you need this symbol to do this on this card later on. And so it's not an engine in the pure sense of Wingspan engine, but kind of an engine that some of the cards you play earlier in the round may affect the cards you play later in the round. So it's not a bad one. It's one that we could easily, on one of your trips, we could easily play, and we could teach it and play it in like an hour and a half at best. It wouldn't take that long, just because it's so 3 rounds. You're playing 6 cards first round, 7 cards second round, and 8 cards third round. And that's it. And so what takes more time in a good way is reading through everything. So, and actually being immersed in the story. So, yep, that's Witcher Path of Destiny. I didn't do a great job explaining it, but it's not a bad game by any stretch.
Yeah, I think when we talked about it, when you sent me the pictures of it, I think I immediately looking at it, I was like, this seems like a game that if I was heavily invested in Witcher, I would love it even more. In the same way, I think we both likened it to the Mistborn board game, where really phenomenal, fun game, because we love the Mistborn series. And so, yeah, I that's the beauty of IP, guys,
Right.
is, you know, as a theme guy, all about the theme. It is fun when a theme really does elevate a game to a new height. And I enjoy when a theme can sort of grasp me and pull me in to something.
And it's a Kickstarter game. I mean, it's not retail. It's going to be at retail soon. So the art's really good. And I got the basic deluxe package. So I just got the stretch goals, which is just more characters to play and more stories to play. But the art's really cool. The production's really good. It's all really nice. And if it was, I think I already said it's like 3 times now, but if I didn't have as many games as I did, it's a game would really like this game because we can just get out and just play through it and play through the tableau building. So we can do this time, we can do that time. So definitely fun.
So game I played is one that I've only played one game, and I got it because it was on sale. Like, I just happened to be looking for it, and I saw it was on like a small sale. It was like 10 or 15. And it's called Wavelength. And Wavelength is a game that I would say you've probably seen on social media, but my wife spends a lot of time on social media, and she had never heard of this game. And so I was like, I don't understand how you've never seen this, but the game is this. I'll try to describe it and you guys will be familiar with it most likely. There's like a wheel in front of you and you spin this wheel in secret, and then you like move this little slide that covers the wheel, and it shows you a point range somewhere on a spectrum, on a wavelength, you might say, but spectrums are actually what they call it. And so then there's a card, and it'll say on the left side of the spectrum, it's good. On the right side of the spectrum is bad. And so then you spin the wheel and you look and see where the point value, like where the dead center point value is on that spectrum. You hide it, and then you give a clue to to the other people. And you're trying to get points for accuracy and describing it correctly. So like Lindsay and I had some we were eating, and so one of the examples is she said it was cheap, expensive was the other, like the ends of the spectrum,
right?
And she was like, the steaks that we had tonight.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And she had told me before that she went to Publix and found these like BOGO fillets for like $12. And I was like, whoa, that's sick. Like a $12 fillet we can eat at home. That's awesome. But then I'm looking at that, and that's the clue she gave me. So I have to try to decide, like, okay, this is cheap, especially 2 fillets. But is it cheap considering like an at-home dinner?
Right.
And so I ended up like midway up on the cheap side, which is exactly where she put it. She was like, Robbie, this is cheap. For us to be eating filet at home tonight, this is very cheap. And I was like, okay, great. But like I was just barely off. And so you get these points. So it's super fun. It's a great conversation piece. It's certainly one that I think I will, from here on out, if I know I'm coming up to Virginia and we're going to have a game night, I will definitely bring it, because I think that you can have a riot with it, just in terms of the party aspects and things. And there's actually, I've only seen it on social media where people are like playing with someone else on like, it's like 2 people on a short for Instagram or YouTube.
Yeah.
But there's like actually like a point scoring, like there's a team aspect to it that I was unaware of.
Yep.
And there's also like, you get to vote as the opposing team what side, like if you think essentially where they were accurate or not. And you get points for doing that correctly. So, and super cool. Okay, Jason, this catch-up mechanism, you know, we've talked about, we love a good catch-up mechanism, a la rat tails and things like that. This catch-up mechanism is whack. Okay, so if you miss, you get 0 points, right? So if at any point one team has 4 points or greater, you play to 10, they have 4 points or greater, and the other team doesn't get points, or essentially if they get points but they're still losing, they get to go again. So it's literally like, it's almost this designed piece, and you can still get your point from like choosing correctly and all that. but like once you clear a certain threshold, the other team just gets to go. So you could be at 9 and lose.
Yep.
That's insane to me. Like I read that and I was like, bro, I will never be okay actually scoring this for points. Like it's just going to have to be a casual thing because that would drive me crazy.
Yeah. I could score it for points, but accept the fact that this is a party game that we're just putting points in there, right? Because that's the way. What's funny because when I think of Wavelength and all people ever talked about it, it was always about the team aspect about it, and that. Not that I didn't know the specifics, I didn't remember the specifics, but I'd heard about the catch-up mechanism in there. I didn't remember the specifics, but I knew people had talked about it before, and all my memory of hearing, content creators and reviewers talk about Wavelength was always the team aspect of it or the group aspect of playing it. Yeah. So no, it's like that would definitely, you could see that flying really well with the with the Foundation group. Well, because even I thought about this even before we got on, but we are right now planning a game night in June for Foundation. But we may still do one in June, but if your next trip up for the imposter stuff, like I want to be like, do we do a game night with the imposter folks just to have a fun night? So that's not part of the competition, or maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not part of that planning committee. I have no clue.
I definitely, it was one that I was like, and I will say from the price standpoint, I think like no sale, it's like $35. And I was like, that's expensive for this game. But it's not bad. Like it's the production. It's a really nice, huge plastic wheel with some really cool elements to it. So I understand why that's expensive, but everything else I was like, meh, but it's fun. There's an app apparently, and you can do the exact same thing with the app probably for free. So, that's what I would do. Yeah, listeners, I would 100% just do the app. It's fine. So let's talk about today's game. Today's game is one that I will go ahead and tell you, listeners, we're going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum. Your bards are here because we're diving into Hidden Roll, which is something that I love. And maybe that it's the Slytherin in me. Let's just be 100% honest. It is the Slytherin in me. I was telling Jason before we started, I probably have like 100 games of this played because you can jam through the game so fast. But we're talking about One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Jason, you want to talk about the details?
Yep, absolutely. And I will preface this by saying I have maybe 3 or 4 total games over 2 different nights of One Night Ultimate Werewolf. And I don't even own it. Hannah has it because I was going to get rid of it, but Hannah's played it way more than I have, and so she actually has my copy. All right, let's go. Released in 2014, designed by Ted Alspach and Akihisa Aokui, which is interesting. I'm always intrigued. Like, board game design is so interesting. Like, I always want to know the story. Like, after I saw the 2 names, which are very different names, I'm like, okay, I really want to read the story. Was one inspired by the other? I think the original werewolf may have been designed by Akihisa. I think I could be totally wrong. Okay. Because this is based on, some people may know there's a game called Werewolf. That's a hidden role game, but it's a longer game. And so One Night Ultimate Werewolf is a shorter version of that. Anyway, back to the thing. Published by Bezier Games, 3 to 10 players, and plays in 10 minutes. And we'll talk about it, but it absolutely plays in 10 minutes. Which is fantastic, which means you can play it multiple times in a single setting. In One Night Ultimate Werewolf, each player takes on the role of a villager, a werewolf, or a special character. It's your job to figure out who the werewolves are and to kill at least one of them in order to win, unless you become a werewolf yourself. Beginning of every game, all players are dealt a card, and 3 cards are placed in the middle. Players look at their card and their card only. This card tells them their role. The roles include, there's a bunch of different roles, but they include werewolf, villager, seer, robber, and a bunch of other things. 11 or 12 different roles. Once night rolls around, the players close their eyes in the moderator via the free app. So there's an app that you can use to play the game that does everything for you. And I know we'll talk about it, but when you set up the game, it's so great and it's a free app. A moderator will announce what every role is to do and when. Once every role has gone through the players, like for example, and we'll go again more detail, it could be all werewolves open your eyes. All werewolves close your eyes. All oh my gosh, I'm blank. Seer, open
All
your eyes.
Masons,
All
open your
Masons.
eyes.
Mason was the one I was
Yeah.
trying to think of. And I'm getting off script a little bit here, but as what character you are may allow you to do something when you open your eyes. But the gist is everyone closes their eyes. The app tells you to do this. The app drives everything. It makes life so easy, and it'll tell you what to do during that time. Once every role has gone through, as in the moderator has named all the roles to do their actions, the players all open their eyes and attempt to figure out who the werewolf is, or in the werewolf's case, get someone else killed. Players do this by talking to each other for a set time limit. You can set that time limit based on the number of players. At the end of the time limit, players vote by pointing at who they think the werewolf is. So we're like, okay, everybody ready to vote? 1, 2, 3, and you point. And that's how you vote. You point and you hold your finger out and you point. The player with the highest number of votes is killed and flips their card to reveal their role. If a werewolf is revealed, i.e. if a werewolf is killed, the villagers win. If a villager is revealed other than the tanner, the werewolves win. If the tanner is revealed, that player wins. So if the tanner is killed, he always wins. And that's basically the game. That's the quick level, high level of the game. That's One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
Yeah. So setup is super easy. There is when you get this box is, I mean, there are Kleenex boxes that are literally larger than this game. And so inside of it, when you punch it out, are these cardboard, basically cards is probably the best way to put them, but they feel more like tiles. I would put them halfway between a tile and a card.
Yeah. Yeah. I would probably call it a tile, but it kind of feels like a card because it's got a face on it and you flip it over and it's two-sided because of the nature of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're thick like tiles. Ours, I got mine out just to refresh myself on the different faces and things in the game. And half of ours, we've played so much that literally pieces are the art on it is peeling off because it's that, or it's worn off because you play it upside down and you're sliding things across the table and all that. It's fascinating. So setup is super easy because you pull these out and the hardest part of the setup is choosing based on player count what roles you're going to have in the game, because it plays 3 to 10. So you don't always have to include all of the roles. There are enough special roles that you could have everybody have a somewhat special role, but you can also include, I think it's up to 3 different villagers who are just along for the ride. But a villager can be a super fun role because you don't really do anything. So you just sit in suspense during the night phase, but then you just wake up and get to have a blast because you have no information and everyone else is functioning off of something. So the teach feels like a lot, but because it plays in under 10 minutes, every time that I've taught this game, I tell people, look, here's the deal. Well, I'm going to show you what the roles do. The app is going to explain what the role does when you wake up.
Yep.
Just listen to what it says. We're going to do that. And then we'll just play around. Let's just play around. And we dive through. We know that we're just going to sack one game basically to the teach.
Yeah.
So the teach takes a maximum of 10 minutes. So like Jason said, it's based off of Werewolf. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Werewolf, if you ever played Mafia at a youth group party or anything like that, or when you were at a birthday party, very a la, there's people, everyone goes to sleep. You close your eyes, you look down, Mafia wake up, they look around, they see who the other Mafia members are, blah, blah, blah. They choose someone to kill that person. Yeah. So what's really fun about this is that because the games are only 10 minutes, you don't ever get eliminated.
Yep.
You get to play every single round, unlike a Mafia or a Werewolf where you get killed if you're the first one taken out because your girlfriend was the Mafia member and she decides to shoot you first. And now you're sick. They're going to play for another 30 minutes. And I don't get to do anything. Nice. That's a terrible game experience. So, the theming of it, I think could be stretched to pretty much anything, which probably ties into just how the One Night franchise has kind of existed. Would you say, Jason?
Yep. Yeah, because there's also One Night Ultimate Vampire. There's One Night Ultimate Superheroes. We owned both of those games. I think we owned them. Hannah has them. I think she's played the vampire one. And so it could be applied to so many things, but I think aliens, but it can be applied well. So in many ways, the theme is easy to see that in that it's either the villagers are going to, if you kill a werewolf, you win. If a villager's killed, where the werewolf won because he killed a villager, right? They wake up unhappy because they lost one of their villagers. And the tanner is a whole different story altogether, and you can choose to play with him or not, right? So the theme is, even though it could be a lot of different things, within a party game, because it's very much a party game, the theme is there. Sure. You can look at it and be like, okay, there's some theme there. You're not necessarily going to pretend like you're a werewolf, but when you get into the discussions, you can take on the same role, just like you do with Bang the Dice game. If I'm the sheriff, I'm definitely the sheriff, and I'm trying to keep justice. If you're the bandit, you're trying to cause problems. If you're the werewolf, you're trying to eat a villager. So there you go.
Yeah. So Hidden Roll, I think, has this game length spot on. Once again, spot on. It's 10 minutes. The app literally plays us like it has a timer for you built in and everything. So 10 minutes is actually the maximum amount of time that you're going to have, because if you have every single detailed roll in there, it takes you 5 minutes to work through the night phase of everyone going to sleep and like the amount of time that it gives you to do everything. But for every special roll that you take out, it literally shortens the game because it's one less person that has to wake up on that first 5 minute segment on the front end. So that's one way to really shorten it. When we start, we always, whenever I teach this, I always start with the maximum amount of villagers, and then we slowly introduce certain roles into the game because those roles can really help balance it out. Now, one thing that I love about this, because I love a hidden role game. Once again, maybe it's because I'm a bad person. Maybe it's because I enjoy the reality of lying at a party, because you have to lie during this game. If everyone just comes out and they're honest about it, the game gets real stale real fast. But one thing that I really appreciate about this is that some people have an interest in playing hidden role, but they're terrible liars, terrible at it. So there are some mechanics inside of the game that no one really knows the full truth the entire time, which is what makes the game fascinating. So you have a tile sitting in front of you. Let's say that we've got 5 people playing. I'm playing with the Collins family. We got 6 people playing because we have Will there as well. So we got 6 people playing. 7 people. There we go. Math is hard. We got there. So we look at these rolls, and everyone gets dealt a tile. In the middle of the board are 3 more tiles. This 3 tile in the middle is so important, because that means there is the possibility that both werewolf tiles are actually in the middle, and therefore nobody is the werewolf. If you're a werewolf and you wake up and no one else is looking around at you, you get to look at one of the tiles in the middle, because that is supposed to give you the information about how you're supposed to lie, because you're going to see that tile in the middle and know, all right, no one is this role because I am this role. Perfect. So you have this balance happening throughout the game that is super, super cool. But when you wake up, you are not necessarily still what you looked at when you went to sleep.
Right. Because
there are cards that switch tiles around. Like the troublemaker switches 2 other people's tiles that are not their own. So let's say in the situation that Jason goes to sleep as a werewolf. He wakes up and he looks over, and Ryder is also a werewolf. But you end up seeing that Elizabeth is a troublemaker. So obviously she's going to switch Jason's tile, because why would she switch anyone else's tile? So she swaps Jason and Hannah's tiles. Well, Hannah was a villager. So when Jason wakes up, he has to function as if he's still a werewolf. But if we decide, hey, we're going to take out Jason, when we take out Jason, it's a villager. So Jason now loses as a villager because he's a villager. And Hannah is acting the whole time like she's a villager. So she's trying to find a werewolf. Turns out she wins regardless because now she's a werewolf. Does that make sense? Like, am I explaining that, like, that shift of roles
Yep.
accurately, Jason?
As someone who knows the game, you're explaining it spot on, right? If you haven't played it, until you play, like Robbie says, it's hard to conceptualize unless you've played other similar games. Maybe you've played Mafia or something, or Resistance or some other games you can kind of mess around with the hidden role games, because the roles, it's hidden role game. And there's 9 or 10 or 11 different roles. And the roles are really where Robbie's kind of getting at, is that's where the meat of the game is, because you can think one thing, open your eyes, take your action, close your eyes, and the game could totally change because of what someone else can do. Because the robber can trade cards with another player. He doesn't get to see the card he's taking. He just trades. Then he doesn't get to see it before he takes it. But then once he takes it, now he's a new role. The troublemaker, like Robbie said, can switch stuff. What's interesting to me, I would love to always be the insomniac, because the insomniac just the
only person that knows.
Right. Yeah. Looks at her card, and they may only be used if there's a robber or troublemaker playing. So that's another unique thing about the roles they've played them out so much. They know that they work best against other roles as well. So many cool things. Like, there's so many different things. The doppelganger is kind of odd and weird, but it's still very cool with how they wake up for everyone else, and they can look at any player's card they choose. And when they choose that card, then they are that person now for the game. But it's anyway, so it's the scenario you gave was perfect, because I know how the game plays, and you did it perfectly in explaining how Hannah goes in thinking one thing and takes actions based on one thing, but then someone else did an action to mess with her as well, and not realizing that they may by default accidentally win or intentionally lose, or any number of those things. And because it's such a quick game, it's easy to, like, oh, wow, you think you're a werewolf, you're trying to get folks killed, you get somebody killed, and you actually got a werewolf killed because you thought it was a villager, but now you're a villager and you just won the game, but you thought you were trying to do something else, or you're part of the team that just won. And you're like, oh, wow, I won by accident, but I'll take it all day. So for certain, Robbie said you have to, to really get into the game, you have to be willing to, you don't necessarily have to be willing to lie, but if you flat out tell the truth every single time, you may not win, because you're going to get targeted for that, right? So you don't necessarily have to lie, but that you may have to shape your discussions in a way that, I think Robbie's the werewolf. I think Hannah is definitely the doppelganger by how she's acting. Oh, whatever roles are in that game that you think are out there. So you don't necessarily have to lie, but that getting into the pretending to be someone else, bluffing on who you are, is kind of where that game elevates. And for me, I always come back to Bang, because it's another hidden role game, but that's one where the more you embrace that element of it, the more I think you'll get out of it.
For sure. The pro tip that I always give people when I teach this game, because that swap that happens can be super confusing, because people are like, well, what if it gets swapped in the middle of the night? Like, how do I know when I'm supposed to wake up? It is when you go into the night phase, whatever you saw in front of you, you are going to function until you have reason to believe when you wake up that that's not true anymore. You have to believe that that is still true. So you're going to wake up and function as whatever you went to sleep as. So when the narrator comes on and says, like, insomniac, wake up. If you went to sleep as the insomniac, you're going to wake up in that moment. But because the troublemaker or the robber could have moved it, you now don't know, hey, like, you get to check. So that is where, like Jason said, it's one of the best roles in the game, because you're the only one functioning on pure information, because you are actually the last person to wake up every single round as you go through. And the only person who wakes up after you is the doppelganger, if they copied the insomniac. Right. But even then, both of you are still functioning with perfect information,
right? Because
you know what you're going to have. But like Jason said, and then, so how you bluff can really put in so much. I basically every time I play, I will assume one of two roles, no matter what I have in front of me, just to get things going at the start of it. So I have nights where we're going to play for 2 to 3 hours, and I just lock in that I'm a villager every time. Like, guys, I'm a villager. I'm just, team village. I'm here for the people. It's what I do. I'm here to hunt some wolves tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do this. And I'll like open up with that speech, whether I'm the villager or not. If I'm not the villager, I've done something that gives me information that I'm waiting for someone else to out themselves and saying, like, if I was the robber and I switched with a werewolf, I now know that I'm a werewolf. They have no idea that they're a robber. So I'm just looking at that werewolf and being like, because I've declared I'm Team Village, hunting the wolves. And so I want to see what role they're going to do. And then I'm just going to throw them under the bus so viciously because they've outed themselves. My favorite strategy, though, and this is one that I would encourage anyone who ever plays this game, is the troublemaker. For those pitch perfect people out there, they're called the troublemakers, but someone calls them troublemakers, and that is what my friend group called the troublemaker our entire time that we played this game. So the troublemaker, I wake up and I'm like, hey guys, I'm just going to let everyone know I was a troublemaker. I switched 2 people's cards. I will let you know in a little bit which 2 cards I switched. And so I like put that information out there, whether I'm the troublemaker or not. And sometimes you can even be like in a situation like Elizabeth could wake up in the scenario we gave before, and she could be like, I woke up and I actually switched Xander and Jason's cards. So guys, if either of you were a werewolf, now's your time, because you're not a werewolf anymore. You can out the other person. And I've seen games where I do that strategy, and one of the werewolves is like, okay, yep, I'm going to be honest, I was a werewolf. So that means Xander's a werewolf now. And then I'm like, by the way, actually didn't switch y'all's cards. I switched Hannah and Will's. And so now we know Jason's a werewolf. GG's. And they're just stuck trying to do it. So it is this like the bluffing, the leaning in, and Jason's mentioned this before. I think hidden role games shine when you have someone, and like, I don't know how to say this without sounding vain, Jason, someone like me there to drive the energy and drive it up can really add to the environment of this game. Because if you have one person who's willing to push the conversation a little more so that it's not this awkward, because some people don't feel comfortable bluffing, which is a drawback of the game for sure. Like, because it's very basic in its pieces. The social interaction via the roles is the game.
Absolutely. And that's what, when James was on it, we talked about some people have the anxiety of that. And so you need someone to drive it, because the roles are really where it's at, and embracing those roles. And you could have folks who go full on Slytherin like Robbie, or you could have folks who are just trying to have fun with it. Not that you're not trying to have fun, but like, it's just not it's no surprise that I'm not a hidden role game, because I don't naturally, I can be dramatic, I can be bombastic, I can be all those things, but not when it comes to those kind of games. But if you have folks who are willing to do that, because to play it, you got to put yourself out there, because you're almost acting, right? The bluffing thing is acting basically. And so that's why, a game we talked about this before, Sheriff of Nottingham fell flat. We owned it. We played it as a family. And it was like, I just can't lead these kind of games. We're like, this game stinks, even though people love Sheriff of Nottingham, but you need people who know how to teach you in a way how to drive it. So like similar, like if you played one night, it'd be good to watch other people playing it, or playing with someone who knows how to play it and likes it, to show you where the fun kind of comes out of that, how you can be, whether you're actually the troublemaker card or not, how you can be a troublemaker pretending to be something else. Or you could just say, hey, I was a troublemaker and I switched the cards, and you weren't actually the troublemaker, right? And like, no, I was the troublemaker.
The best feeling in the world.
And that, right, exactly. When someone says they were something and you were like, well, that was me. So those roles are where it's at, and it's one of those that people get intimidated by those things for sure. So you got to know your crowd for that. We mentioned this is in Hunter. Hunter loves One Night because it's a perfect game for Hunter. Hunter would love that stuff. Brody, would fit like crazy in with One Night because it's such a talky social accusation, bluffing, pushing, lying, tricking, whatever that. It's all those things and it's in 10 minutes. Like the entire game is in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't talk for 10 minutes. The entire game is in 10 minutes. And you're like, oh, that was awesome. Then you talk about it. Oh, I didn't. You just lied. Okay, let's play it again. Look, let's go. And then you can change it up, put in the app you choose, because in the app you're choosing which characters you're using, how many players, which characters you're using, so it knows which one. Because there's a priority order in which it calls all the names out. We haven't said that. There's actually a priority by which it names all that. I think it's the villagers and the werewolf or whatever. It's in the rule book, but it also will show you on the app so you know what the order is going to come in.
Yep. And you don't have to have the app. It is important to note that the app does drive things well, but you don't have to have the app. Jason just mentioned it in the rule book. Like if you have someone like who's played it and everyone else is fresh, oftentimes like I will just narrate myself. Like I usually will have the app do it, but I'll keep my eyes open and watch to make sure that like people are doing the correct things.
Right.
But if you don't want to download the app for some reason, it's a free app, you can just self-narrate and it does give you that order, which is a fun feature as well.
Yep.
So one of the things, like as I look through it, there are certain roles that are really fun that I just want to highlight that I think are super interesting because there's a lot of the replayability of this is super high because there are several roles that play around these 3 cards in the middle that, like I said, really add to the layer and replayability of it all. So the seer, for instance, is someone who wants to gather information. The seer, when they wake up, they get to look at a card. If they look at another player's card, they only get to see one other player's card. But what they can do is they can look at 2 cards in the middle instead. So they get more information of roles that are not being used, but they also don't know what anyone else is, like for certain. So there's a chance as the seer that you could like snipe a werewolf because you see it. But also the seer is early in the round as well. So because of that, they go before any of the card movement happens. They go before the robber. They go before the troublemaker. So whatever they looked at, if they look at a player, could be tough. The robber, as we mentioned, steals a player's card and looks at it. So they know what they are. The person who got stolen from has no idea. The troublemaker switches to, but does not look at it. Almost every time that I play with new players, someone screws up the troublemaker and they grab both cards and they flip them over and then they swap them and then they flip them back. And then they're like, man, this roll's kind of OP. I'm like, it is because you cheated. So, like, I'm chuckling because, guys, the number of times I played this game so many times, and it is always that roll that someone does it. They're like, yeah, I flipped it over, and I saw that Elizabeth was the robber, and Jason was the drunk, and I swapped him, and like that was it. I was like, my guy, what are we doing? The drunk trades with a card in the middle, but doesn't look at it, right, which is even funnier because they went to sleep and they don't remember the night. Right. So like thematically, it fits in really well. The hunter, really cool role. When the hunter goes down, whoever they voted on also dies. And if they snipe a werewolf, village wins, which is really cool. The insomniac wakes up, knows their card. And then the minion, I have to admit, this one I don't love. It's my least favorite role in the game, and I will only play it if we literally just like someone is adamant that we're going to play the minion, because the minion works for the werewolves. So when the werewolves wake up, the minion sticks their thumb up. So they don't know who the werewolves are, but the werewolves know who they are. And if the minion dies, like basically they can take a hit for the werewolves. So the werewolves can then kind of spin it aggressively on them. And it creates this, like, I think it makes it super imbalanced to the werewolves. And one of my favorite parts of the game is that I think amongst the spectrum of party hidden role games, I really do think this is the best of them because it is the most balanced in it's just as easy for the werewolves to win as it is for the village to win. And that's just not the case in a lot of hidden role games. Like some of the hidden role games that I've played, like the Resistance, very, very difficult for the bad guys to win. But Secret Hitler is one that like a lot of people love. And I think it is so difficult to lose when you are the bad guys, because like there's just so many laws and like things that come out that it's like, well, obviously,
Right.
like we chose these. So yeah, I think the balancing of the game is like sneaky well done.
Yep. For sure. Like you can tell because of those, when you do a first read through the rules and like the uniqueness of each ability, like, well, that's kind of weird. But as you talk to someone who's played it a lot, like you, or you listen to reviewers talk about it and they kind of explain the situations where those cards make sense, like, oh yeah, it's clear they've play tested this a lot to have it balanced. Because even like I said, the minions, if you just want to throw a little chaos in a larger size game, and just to throw it off, just to throw your head on, just put it on its head a little bit. There's because of that balance of all those things. I agree too. It is we know I talk about all the time. I like banging the dice game, but there's dice rolling, which I don't like, and there's player elimination, which I don't like, but I still love that game. And I agree, this is a more perfect version of a hidden roll bluffing party style game. Because of the speed, because of the balance, because you as you said, when I close my eyes, my card is what I think it is. When I wake up, it may not be that anymore, but I'm playing like it is. So I'm going all in until the end. And then you may realize, well, holy crap, I'm not that at all. Right. And so there's going in and accepting that brings a lot of fun to it. Cause again, it's 10 minutes and it takes a minute or two to set it up again. And then you roll again. And so if that's your kind of game, Robbie and his crew, over 100 games of it for sure. And if I had the right kind of crew to play with, it'd be the same for me. Me and our family just wasn't. We played it, 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. Kids were younger. It's not my kind of game to drive, so it didn't hit. But if we played it now with the right crew, it'd be fantastic because I would just sit back and follow the lead of someone else and jump in as needed.
Yeah, it's I think an underrated part about the speed of the game is that the competitive layers that it brings the longer you play the game, which is like, if I'm going to sit down and play Bang the Dice game, I'm not going to play it 5 times in a row. Like it's just, that's too much time. And so how people are choosing to tell the truth and not tell the truth, to bluff or not to bluff, matters, right? Like in these hidden role environments. So if I'm playing and we're going to play 5 games in a row, we're going to play this game for an hour. Awesome. Very, very doable to get 5 games in an hour. And that's with chit chat between each game, like because you're zooming through them. So on game 1, I wake up and I say, hey, guys, I'm just letting you know, I'm a troublemaker. I switched Jason Elizabeth's cards. I have given them no reason to not believe me other than the fact that I'm a Slytherin. So they're probably, because they know me, not going to believe me right off the bat. Yeah. But that's a part of it. And I probably won't tell the truth right off the bat. But then I get to the 3rd game where I wake up and I'm like, guys, this is crazy. You're not going to believe it. I'm the troublemaker again. And they're like, eyes are rolling at this point. Like everyone's like, oh, okay, Robbie, let's let him spin his web and do his thing. But like reality, I was the troublemaker. And I did actually flip those 2 cards. There's this like nuance to the game. So I think for the like really strategic players, what's really fun about this is that while it feels like little one shots that are firing off over and over again, why I think this game shines, at least for our crew, is like I said, you can kind of approach an entire evening of playing this game with a certain strategy mindset. Like I'm going to bluff 3 games in a row, and then I'm just going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because then you also have the role of the Tanner who wants to die.
Yep.
So like if they get chosen, they win. So sometimes the Tanner will just come out and be like, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a werewolf. And you're like, okay, well, we're not going to take care of that guy because that's obviously the Tanner. But then when that happens, someone else who is actually a werewolf can jump in and be like, well, no, he's not the werewolf because I'm the werewolf.
Right.
And it just opens up this whole world of like, who's the werewolf? who's the Tanner? Do we lose on this vote? And so it is a blast.
Yeah.
I love the layer of that. And like I said, I would imagine, Jason, like I said, you've only played it a couple times over a couple nights. Probably didn't get to achieve that layer of complexity moving through. Like, oh, we're going to play this several times.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, I will say, like I said, final thoughts for me, and I'm hyped on this game. You guys can very much guess. I've talked about this before in several of our top 10 lists. Very, very high on this game. So I want to give one major drawback. And that is exactly what we've mentioned. I just want to highlight it one more time. I do think that if you are someone who has like the slightest hinge of social anxiety, this is not a fun experience. I would avoid this game like the plague unless you are playing with your friends, like your dedicated crew. I think this is something that I could bring to like a game night with Foundation and the like Heiser Club, like a Patreon type deal.
Yeah.
And I could drive the game to a certain level.
Yep.
Especially if I got Brody to sit at the table with me. The two of us have enough energy to make everyone have a good time playing this game, even if you have that social anxiety.
Yep.
But I will never forget one of Lindsay's friends. We had just gotten married. She came over and they were like, what are you running for your birthday? And I was like, guys, we're having a werewolf party. And so we just played this for like 3 hours. And she showed up, she played 3 games and then she was like, I can't handle this. And she left. And I felt awful because she drew the werewolf literally all 3 times. And like, that's so hard. That's so hard. And so at one point I'm like I've spotted her as the werewolf. I know she's the werewolf and I am trying everything I can to just die. Like I'm like, please, for the love of all that's good and holy, vote for me. And they're like, Robbie, obviously you're the Tanner. We're not going to do it. And I was like, bro, I already told you I'm the troublemaker. But am I? And so I want to pass that off because I can get very hyped about the game, very into it. And I understand that when bluffing becomes involved, some feelings can get thrown into the game and people start to lump some character issues inside of it.
Yeah.
And I do think that is like the only drawback of hidden roll. It's the dark side of hidden roll is
the dark side of hidden roll.
That's like true. Hunter is probably the same way that loves a hidden roll game. And we leave it all on the table for the hidden roll game. As soon as it's over, it's like, I think nothing of you for deceiving me in that way. Like, that's great. So just be wary if you can't walk away from the table with people bluffing to your face and being okay with it.
Yep.
I think it's a fair,
very, very well spoken for sure. So it is you captured it right in both sides. Cause one is you have to, even though this might not, and we'll go into ratings in a second. Cause I'm gonna start talking about, can we go into ratings? Is that good?
Go for it. Yeah.
I'll highlight this. Say the MSRP is like $30. You can typically find it around 20. It's 21 on Amazon. And the amount of gameplay even if you pay $30, you're going to play, if you like this game. And like, as Robbie is the example of it, you're going to play it so many times that you're literally paying pennies per game at some point. Cause it can be, it's totally different game, but it's the same world of the crew. We play because I like the crew the same way Robbie likes the crew, the same way he likes One Night. Those are perfect. Two different games. You can tell that he has the same passion, but that's what I'm about the crew. But my $15 game of the crew, we're down to pennies per game at this point. That's how many games we've played, right? And so One Night is the perfect example of that. Because even if you paid full price, $30, and you realize you like it, you're going to play it a ton. My bang the dice game is that I always come back to that because it was like a $20 game. But for this small little thing, we've played it so many times and spent hours playing it. What's funny is, and I've said this before, I have this obvious and subconscious pressure when I play any board games with people who know I'm a board gamer. So I have pressure to not actually be good, but be present and active in those games, which is why games I'm not good at, hidden roll, because I'm not inspired by them or I'm not drawn to them or I'm not attracted to them. I don't do as well, and I can turn it on every once in a while, right? It's hard for me to get up to 11. Robbie's always at 11 when he plays these games. I can get there, and basically I'm I'm pulling Robbie out of me, having been around Robbie, and I'm basically pretending to be Robbie during those times in the best way possible, right?
Yeah.
I've done that a little bit more with some of those games that are not my style, but it's hard and it drains me. Like I'm not kidding. I could play Caverna's a 3-hour game. I could play 3 back-to-back 3-hour games of Caverna and not be drained at all, right? Even though they're heavy, crunchy, thinky games. But you give me 2 games of One Night Ultimate Werewolf, maybe 3, I'm done. Like I'm like your friend. I'm like, it doesn't matter what card I get. No. If the table is rollicking, I can ride the wave of emotion and happiness. But individually, for me, I'm like, I just drained everything about me because this is not naturally it's not naturally how I think. I'm a Euro player. I like perfect information. I like thinking my way around the board as opposed to playing the games, right? Say all that to say, this game is amazing. When Robbie, full disclosure here, right? When Robbie texts me we should cover it, I'm like, I don't want to cover this game because I don't like this game. But I acknowledge it's my own personal bias. I'm trying to lay all my own bias out here so you understand this, right? But I cannot deny how amazing this game is, how beloved this game is in the world, and how it's a massive mega hit for a reason. Because non-gamers, this could be their board game, right? A non-gamer could play this over and over, and they're a board gamer. I call them a non-gamer, but they're not a heavy hobby gamer, but they're playing a hobby game. Because One Night is definitely respected and beloved in the snobby game world, without doubt, right? Uno is not, even though Uno is widely popular and probably more popular than One Night, right? It's not a respected game. One Night in the snobby hobby world is wildly respected, has all these sequels, variations that could be, they're not even quite sequels, they can be played together, and they're not expansions. Yeah. Say all this, say this game is amazing, but for me, if I could go lower than an oatmeal raisin, I would go lower than an oatmeal raisin, because it is not me in any way at all. And I will be totally transparent. It would take the right people to even get me to play this game. Robbie is that. I don't know if I could actually play without Robbie, right? I'm not going to lie. Now that I am friends with Robbie, I can't imagine not playing with anybody else. Because if anything my kids ask me to play, I'll play in a heartbeat, and I will jack it up to 11 to make sure they have a good experience, right? It's what we do. It's what we do for our kids, right? Beyond that, if it's not Robbie, I'm probably not playing this game, right? If we see you at Gen Con and I'm not standing by Robbie, I'm not playing this game with you. I love you, but I'm not. Like, maybe if I'm with Tom Vassell or some other people, because will bask in their greatness. It's a long way to say, I want to say how great this game is. And I mean that. I'm not just saying that. Yeah. But it's below an oatmeal raisin for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I will go ahead and jump in and say that if I could go higher than a double, it would be higher than a double for me.
Exactly.
Like this is a top 3 game of all time for me. Because of the memories, because of, I think that the design, the more that I think about the design of it, it's like, I don't understand why anyone wants to play any other hidden role game. Cause I'm like, we have it. Like its greatest weakness, even if you look outside of like the player anxiety and all that, I'll tell you its greatest weakness. Its greatest weakness is the table you have to have in order to play this game super effectively. Because tiles are being swapped around. So you have to have the opportunity to like reach someone else's tile. So I think about if I was playing this at Jason's house, Jason has a rectangle board game table. If I was on one end and Will's on the opposite end, it's going to be very difficult for me to interact with Will's tiles without shaking the whole table while I'm like, it's like, all right, troublemaker, wake up. And when you all feel the table move to your right, you're like, oh, Robbie is the troublemaker. He's actively moving right now. Yep. Guys, I love this game so much. When I designed and picked how I wanted to build my board game table, I literally got a square board game table for One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Like that was the heart of the design. I was like, I want to be able to have 8 people to 10 people sit around my table and we can all reach all of the tiles. Like that is how impactful this game is for me. I love this game. I will play this with absolute strangers and have a blast, and we will be yelling at each other by the end of the game. And it's going to be fantastic because when that timer goes off and I'm pointing at you for being the liar that you are, you hairy werewolf, I am going to feel just as fine if you were a villager and I messed up. Like, that's great. I love the aspect of it. Like Jason said, it's acting at its finest, and I lean into it. I did drama all through high school, and yeah, it's such a fun game.
You're so right. Like, and that's why in so many ways I love talking about this game, because of how much it's not, how much I don't actively dislike it, how much it's not my kind of game, but it's almost a perfect game. You hit the nail on the head. The two main things, right? One you just hit was that it's when you especially have a larger game, it's hard to be the roles and be able to move around and switch cards and look at people's cards. I'm the seer, but I want to see someone's card across the way. I want to switch to, and people will talk about, well, there's ways you can kind of tap the table and you can kind of shuffle and move around. Everybody's supposed to be kind of making noise or moving so you don't feel it. But if you have a 10-person game, that'd be hard, right?
Tough.
And the second one we've already talked about, if you're not into if you have social anxiety, naturally social anxiety, if you're not going to talk in this game, you may not have any fun, right? If you're okay sitting back and just enjoying the company, you may have a great time and hardly say any words at all, right? Yeah. Other than the vote. You could absolutely do that. My mom would do that, right? Because she'd want to be with the crowd, and she would happily sit and play and just vote. So but if you're to embrace but if you're worried about people trying to bring you into a conversation, then that's it's not a fallacy of the game. It's just a thing you need to know about the game. It's not even error or anything wrong about the game. The size of the table and all that is a challenge that you can't really overcome easily. The other ones you can. So I keep saying it, but like when I'm praising this game that I will never voluntarily play, because I acknowledge how almost perfect of a game it actually is within the role and world it's presenting to the players. So I cannot deny that.
Yeah. And it's so simple. Like it is, and every complicated layer, like truly, if the doppelganger is the end all be all of complication that you can add to the game, because the doppelganger screws with the timing of everything. Like it just messes up. It is literally throwing like a screwdriver in the middle of a fine oiled machine and just being like, hope it works, as it's just clanking around in there. Like it's straightforward. It's super well done. It's very fast. And you talk about wanting to spectate it. I've been at plenty of parties, like our one night parties, where we had people who were like, this is so funny. I'm not going to play.
Yep.
I'm literally just going to sit back and watch.
Yep.
And I think about this at a Foundation Patreon game night or something, where we end up with like 25 people playing games, and we're at like 4 different tables all playing. I have no doubt that if I brought this game and we sat down, we would end up with a crowd literally just watching us play this game versus playing another game at another table, just because it leads to that much chaos.
Yep.
Super fun. So that's One Night Ultimate Werewolf, guys. I'm happy that we covered it. Hidden roles, like I said, always going to be one of my top tier features inside of a game. I even think when we had Jamie on, we were talking about like things that like really stand out in a game. That was one of mine. I love a hidden role. And so I love that information being kept to me, and I think it's really great. So Jason, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, man. I think it was a good conversation. I really do. I think hopefully the listeners got a good feel for what the game is coming out of it, because it's like so many of our games, we explain it. As soon as you go through, one of these games, you'll know it almost like the back of your hand. It's that clear and that easy to play because it just drives the game. And then when you play with other folks who know how to play it and get to the wide variety of strategy you can do in the game, to just play it or to try to win it or to do a little bit of both, for sure. So it's almost a perfect game. I can't say that about hardly any other game that we've talked about, but it's for what it gives.
Yeah.
Size notwithstanding, right? Player count and table space notwithstanding, it's almost a perfect game, which says a lot.
And we didn't discuss it, but final as the resident expert of this game on the podcast, I would say player count, anything greater than 5, bang. Like it's awesome. At 5 is probably the lowest you want to play at.
Yeah.
It says 3 to 10, tough at 3.
Yeah.
It's tough. So I would say if you got 5 people, you can probably go for it. If you have a me in your 5, you can definitely go for it. If you don't have a me, like if you have no Robbie C there, I would wait to 6. But yeah. That's the advice. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We will see you guys in 2 weeks for episode 42.
See ya.